Welcome and thank you for joining the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. I'm Karmen, your divine synergist of Heart's Joy. I'm an awakened person of purpose, a spiritual life coach. I have a passion for life. I'm an author, podcast host, and a numerologist. In this week's episode on the podcast, you're going to learn how to navigate the noise and the chaos that we are experiencing today. So thank you for those of you who are tuning in. If you're watching the podcast, you can always like, comment, share as well. Always be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. So this week's episode isn't my typical content, and it's also very important that we have these conversations right now with everything that's happening, because it's only going to continue to get worse and worse and louder and louder. Now, I'm going to read some of the topics in today's headlines that you may have already seen or heard over the past several months. Another mass school shooting, gun control, another train derailment, another chemical spill in the ocean, grand jury indictments, financial collapse, mental health, AI, banning guns, weather patterns, unusual weather, TikTok ban, also known as the Restrict Act, they're after your kids, protect our kids, drag shows, and CSA. Now, that is a lot. That is a lot of different topics, if you will, covering different parts of our lives. And it does feel chaotic, and it has felt chaotic for quite some time. And you may have noticed how it's almost like the information is coming in so quickly, so fast, that it's hard to wrap your mind around what exactly is happening. Now, according to some people, they'll say that, oh, well, it's the end of the world. And I would say not exactly how you think. And it's definitely the end of the way it's ending the ways that we used to do things. We now get a chance to do something different. And so that's what you're experiencing right now through this noise, through this chaos and destruction. It's truly destruction. In order to co-create the new, what it's going to look like on the other side, which is why I keep saying that 2023 is really a bridge year, because we've got to go through this first in order to get to where we're going. And I want to focus on the present moment now. Now, you're not crazy. The enemy wants you to think you're crazy. They want to keep you confused. And I mentioned this in the numerology and energy update back in January for 2023, that we are going to start to think, oh my gosh, I'm crazy. I've totally lost my mind. That's again going to be another common theme. Confusion has been rampant. And I feel like it only became more prevalent back in 2020. And it allows control. It allows for the enemy to come in and to control you when you are confused, when you don't have clarity about who you are, why you're here, what you're doing. And it's especially the identity piece that they want to keep you confused about. And anytime I say they, don't get so hung up on the who is they. When you, in the 3D, what I call the 3D sandbox, is when we start to name the people here in the human world. I want you to understand that this is truly a spiritual war. And so this is the enemy, whatever you want to call the enemy. Some people call the enemy the devil, Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to call the enemy. I'm not going to get into that conversation. Just know that it's a consciousness that doesn't have a soul, and they want your soul, because that's how they're able to continue to quote unquote live. But in order to get control over you, you've got to agree to certain things, and that's where the confusion comes in. That's where the chaos comes in. They want you confused. They create the confusion. Anytime you have chaos and confusion in your life, that's the enemy at work. Start to think back to a time when you didn't have clarity and what decisions came out of that versus when you did have clarity and that those decisions were much different. They had a different frequency. They had a different outcome. You were truly in your power when you were clear. You made powerful decisions versus when you are confused and you aren't sure who you are or where you're going or what you're doing. Those decisions that you then make are normally you're not being empowered. You're normally making decisions based on what someone else wants, not what you want, because you don't have clarity about what you want. Now, I'm going to bring up an example that has truly become a movement. And I want to talk about the example, but then talk about why, when I say this, you may be angry and upset at me for even bringing it up. And I want to talk about that too. So I'm going to ask that you continue to watch or listen to this episode with an open heart and mind. So the example of confusion and chaos in order to control us is the trans movement. When you don't know who you are, how can you make clear decisions? When you can't think for yourself, you're now doing what other people are telling you that you need to do. You're truly disconnected from your authentic self because you don't have clarity about who you are, why you're here, and what you're doing, or where you're even going. If you have that clarity, then that's awesome. That's all I want you to focus on right now, is that you are connected to truly who you are authentically in your soul, because that's where that power is, that divine feminine energy. There's so much power in the divine feminine, which is why the enemy wants us to not have the divine feminine energy anymore. That's another reason why they're bringing in the AI. By the way, everything that I'm talking about has good and bad, right? AI is wonderful. It helps us. Chat GPT, I think is what it's called, for example, wonderful. It's really going to be based on the intention and who's running it, who's operating it behind the scenes. So always keep that in mind. The bottom line is they want to say that they can't define a woman. And I'm just simply using this as an example because I think it's a beautiful example to show that how they're trying to normalize it. And it's being pushed. It's a narrative that's being pushed. It's being pushed at a really early age in schools, which is why so many people have been talking about homeschooling their kids because of the agendas now that are in schools, elementary school and high school. And so when you can start to look at something so controversial as the trans movement and look at it from a different perspective by doing research, by asking critical thinking questions, by not getting so angered, I should say, or upset by the fact that I even said that word and use that as an example. Start to notice where your frequency is, where you're playing, what I call sandbox. Are you playing in that 3D sandbox? Are you looking down? Are you angry? Are you wanting to fight? You're right, I'm wrong. How could you say that? How dare you? Blaming, shaming. Or can you do research and say, well, I wonder why Carmen's bringing that up because she's never brought that up before. And I may not understand it. Are you even willing to do the research to understand it? To seek to learn something different outside of yourself. Because we always have a choice. We're always at choice. We've just been giving up our choice. Stop going along with the masses. Stop agreeing to things that you don't understand. Stop assuming and start asking questions. The best question to ask is, why is there a marketing campaign for the trans movement? Why is there a marketing campaign for AI? Why is there a marketing campaign for Trump's indictment? Why is there a marketing campaign? Why is there a marketing campaign? Why is that? Why are they bringing this up? And ask it truly from a curious standpoint. Curiosity opens up your energy field, and it helps you to shift from the weeds, from the I have to be right energy. It's an energy frequency. It shifts you up here, and now you're not so tied into it. One of my teachers calls it the hooks. Take your hooks out so that you aren't so tied into it. You haven't tied your energy into it anymore. Now you're up here. You're actually flying in the airplane 30,000 feet above the actual situation going, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that I keep seeing this, that I keep seeing these different big companies bring on spokespeople who are trans? I wonder why that is. I'm not saying it's good, bad, right or wrong. I'm saying ask the questions. What's really going on? Why are they so pressed to back that population? What's their agenda? Are they trying to confuse me by backing them? Just start to ask those questions. By the way, a lot of times I don't give answers, which I know frustrates people, but it's up to you to come up with the answers because you already have all the answers. You see, we're so used to the people outside of us telling us at church, for example, this is what the Bible says, and this is how you need to believe. That we've disempowered our own selves. We've disconnected ourselves from God, from Jesus. We've literally given away our power, which is a big reason why we are in the mess that we're in today. Now, I do want to mention that anytime I bring up this subject of, and ask a question about trans movement, about the anything really that's controversial, what I hear back, people are defensive and say, oh, so you're against gay people, or so you're against guns, oh, so you're against this person, so you're against that person. No. That was your assumption that you made without asking me any questions, without being willing to sit here and have a conversation, because we're so used to the quick and dirty 30-second, 1-minute videos that aren't serving us at all in so many different ways. They just are not serving us. They're actually doing more detrimental than they are serving us. So, reminder, and we're going to talk about here how to handle these situations when you hear them as they're coming in, that you have the power to discern the facts. Literally what we're seeing, our water, our food, our air, our soil, it's literally being contaminated before our very eyes. And so if you didn't know it, you do now. And the enemy, is truly banking on us that we won't do anything at all because we're so freaking tired. We're over it. We're so numb to it that we just don't want to do it anymore. So I'm going to share with you 5 ways that you can handle these situations as you are going throughout your day, interacting with other people, hearing what they're saying, listening to the news, however you consume that information. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, take out the hooks. That truly just stop trying to control it, stop trying to fix it, stop trying to manipulate it. And that's a very 3D, it's a tight feeling energy. Stop saying, I'm right, you're wrong. And when you take out the hooks, then what it does is it shifts your energy frequency. The second way is to start getting curious and asking questions, as I mentioned earlier. And it's all in how you ask them. If you can ask them from that perspective of, isn't that interesting? And then actually start to take action and do the research. Don't use Google, use DuckDuckGo. Use some unknown ones that don't have money tied to them. Google's truly being told what to show us. You can still take action. I encourage you to take action, and I encourage you to take a stand, which is different than taking a side. And if you'd like for me to elaborate on that, let me know, and I'm happy to do a podcast episode on that. But take a stand is different than taking a side. Taking a side is still saying, I'm right, you're wrong, versus a stand is truly for everyone. It's helping everyone. It's a win-win for everybody. It's that unification that we're going towards anyway. The next way to handle the current chaos that's happening is to stay grounded and meditate. There's so many different reasons why you hear me continue to say, stay grounded, go outside, walk in nature. That helps clear your energy field. It physically will, that and meditation has physical impacts that will help you immensely, especially during this time. Because they want to make sure, the enemy wants to make sure that you are not grounded, that you are confused, that you feel chaotic. Because what happens when you don't have that solid foundation and you're not grounded and you're all over the place and you're very scattered, you can crumble at any time. That's what they want. That's what they're banking on. They're banking on you grasping for straws, angry, upset. Again, take back your power. The bottom line is this is all about your healing journey. This is truly about the relationship with yourself that leads to the relationship with God, with Jesus. We've turned our back on this way too long. We've turned our back on ourselves. We've turned our back on God. And that's partly why we've gotten into this mess. We've given up our power. We've just gone along our days. We've been so focused on the narratives that they've given us of what success looks like, of the hustle culture. We've forgotten to have fun and live. We've forgotten that, hey, you don't have to wait until you retire to enjoy life. Enjoy life now. We've turned a blind eye for centuries on what's been happening. And now the enemy is saying, I'm here and I'm finally taking over. And they've got to pull out all the stops that they possibly can quickly, very, very quickly, to continue the chaos, to continue the confusion. And it's going to be up to you to shift that. By the way, as you heal and as you shift your energy frequencies, so does the frequency around you. And it does impact everyone else around you, and it impacts how you interact with them as well. There is truly a huge ripple effect. If you are interested in having support during this time, you can join the free online community called Creating Life You Love. Go to hearts-joy.mn.co, and I will also drop a link as well below so that you can join us in there. It's free and it's not on social media. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have people from all over the United States, from Canada, from the UK, all over that are in there. Such a heavy topic to talk about, yet it was time to have this conversation. I pray that you have found something fruitful from it. Please always reach out with questions, concerns that you have of anything that's always shared in the podcast. I will see you next week. Sending you much love.